Kundra Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kundra Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janarandana Yashodanandana Vraja Janarandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kundra Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kundra Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajagacharya Asatara Sata Shri Sriman His Divine Grace of Arjuna Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajagacharya Asatara Sata Shri Sriman Divine Grace Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Ram Sekho Shri Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasudeva Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is Ki Gaur Premanandi All glorious is some devotees All glorious is some devotees All glorious is some devotees all glories to Sri Guru, Sri Gauranga, and Srila Prabhupada. Good evening and welcome to the Bhagavad Gita class in English. I saw also that they just finished the Hindi class as well, yes? Very nice to have such a nice program set up for all the devotees. So reading from Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 2, contents of the Gita summarized, text number 3. Klaibyaṁ gamaḥ pārtha, please repeat.
Klaibyaṁ pārtha.
Naitat upapadyate. Kṣudraṁ hṛdaya-daurbalyaṁ. Tyaktvottiṣṭha paran-tapa. Please chant.
Klaibyaṁ gamaḥ
gamaḥ pārtha. Naitat upapadyate. Kṣudraṁ hṛdaya-daurbalyaṁ. Tyaktvottiṣṭha param-tapa. Klaibyaṁ gamaḥ pārtha. Naitat upapadyate. Kṣudraṁ hṛdaya-daurbalyaṁ. Tyaktvottiṣṭha param-tapa. We need at least 6 or 7 more chanters.
Klaibyaṁ
gamaḥ pārtha. Naitat upapadyate. Kṣudraṁ hṛdaya-daurbalyaṁ.
tyaktvottiṣṭha paran-tapa.
tyaktvottiṣṭha paran-tapa.
klaibyam
Klaibyaṁ pārtha. Naitat upapadyate. kṣudraṁ hṛdaya-daurbalyaṁ. tyaktvottiṣṭha paran-tapa. Ladies? Klaibyaṁ gamaḥ pārtha. naitat upapadyate. kṣudraṁ hṛdaya-daurbalyaṁ. tyaktvottiṣṭha paran-tapa. Klaibyaṁ, impotence, masma, do not, gamaḥ, take two, pārtha, O son of Pṛthā, na, never, etat, this, tvayi, unto you, upapadyate, is befitting, kṣudraṁ, petty, hṛdaya, of the heart, daurbalyam, weakness, tyaktvā, giving up, uttiṣṭha, get up, param-tapa, O chastiser of the enemies. How's the sound? Good? O son of Pṛthā. We can, first I'll chant and then we can chant again. O son of Pṛthā, do not yield to this degrading impotence. It does not become you. Give up such petty weakness of heart and arise, O chastiser of the enemy. Please repeat. O son of Pṛthā, do not yield to this degrading impotence. It does not become you. Give up such petty weakness of heart and arise, O chastiser of the enemy. Translation and purport by Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Purport. Arjuna was addressed as the son of Pṛthā, who happened to be the sister of Kṛṣṇa's father, Vasudeva. Therefore, Arjuna had a blood relationship with Kṛṣṇa. If the son of a chastriya declines to fight, he is a chastriya in name only. And if the son of a brahmana acts impiously, he is a brahmana in name only. Such chastriyas and brahmanas are unworthy sons of their fathers. Therefore, Kṛṣṇa did not want Arjuna to become an unworthy son of a chastriya. Arjuna was the most intimate friend of Kṛṣṇa, and Kṛṣṇa was directly guiding him on the chariot. But in spite of all these credits, if Arjuna abandoned the battle, he would be committing an infamous act. Therefore, Kṛṣṇa said such an attitude in Arjuna did not fit his personality. Arjuna might argue that he would give up the battle on the grounds of his magnanimous attitude for the most respectable Bhishma and his relatives. But Kṛṣṇa considered that sort of magnanimity a mere weakness of heart. Such false magnanimity was not approved by any authority. Therefore, such magnanimity or so-called nonviolence should be given up by persons like Arjuna under the direct guidance of Kṛṣṇa. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gananjana-shalakaya Chakshur-amrutam Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Bhangum Lankayate Gurum Yat Kripatamam Bande Shri Gurum Dinataranam. This is a very often quoted verse. We hear Prabhupada use it and reference it many times in many different lectures. And he actually also gave this lecture in London on this verse in 1974. And that's one of the benefits we have of the very complete archives of Srila Prabhupada's lectures, conversations, morning walks. This is an invaluable resource. If someone wants to know what Srila Prabhupada's perspective is in these various verses, all he has to do is go to the Veda base or whatever he likes to use, and look up this verse, and he will find a lecture that Srila Prabhupada gave on almost every Bhagavad Gita verse. Who can imagine 700 verses? So in this verse in London, he was specifically talking about this point of this weakness of heart. He compared this weakness of heart to sentiment. And he related it specifically to a situation where a person who is caught, punished as a murderer. Nowadays, capital punishment is put aside out of sentiment. But this is not the actual way that such a situation should be handled, at least since time immemorial. But now, due to weakness of heart, there are no real kṣatriyas. And so therefore there is lawlessness. And this is also the symptom of Kali Yuga. It is not that it is the fault of everyone involved. They're mere players on the stage, as Shakespeare commented. And so there's not much that can be done in this regard, but one should know the truth. And the truth is that this weakness of heart, as pointed out by Kṛṣṇa, is infamous, at least for the kṣatriya. For another person, it might not be, like Kṛṣṇa wanted so many times. There was a time when he wanted to chastise Rukmi, or when he wanted to chastise Ashvatthama. So many times he was stopped by some soft-hearted person. And that Prabhupada described how this is not what a kṣatriya does, but Kṛṣṇa showed the right action, but then it was tempered by some alternate opposing viewpoint by some near and dear person. And so he considered it. And that's also described in the 10th canto later in the Purport, where Prabhupada said that intelligence means to understand things to analyze things in the proper perspective. So there's always some perspective. But in this case, we see that Kṛṣṇa was very strong with Arjuna. He wasn't taking anything or accepting any excuses. And of course, as we go on, we understand why. And Kṛṣṇa is telling him, "Na tvayy ham jatu, na tvayy," so that never was there a time when I did not exist, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. But he's trying to bring him to this point. But at this point, he's chastising him, that you're not thinking or acting like a kṣatriya. So this is not befitting. So one has to know what is the duty he commented here about the Brahmana. And oftentimes when Prabhupada would quote that verse, he would always, in the front, and this was something that Prabhupada did often, he would say, Satyam samodhamotapasocham. So he would put truthfulness in the front, because that is also the emblem of a Brahmana, that he's truthful. So he said that in this case here, we see that for a Brahmin to be untruthful, that is his degradation. He cannot be untruthful. He cannot be any of the qualities of a Brahmana. If you pick any one of them, he cannot be dishonest. He cannot be unclean. So all these things would degrade his status. And so Arjuna, Kṛṣṇa is relating this to Arjuna, that you're a kṣatriya. You need to act like a kṣatriya. You're not even though we understand, intimate friend. Certainly the topmost devotee at this point here in time. And so the instructions here are specific for this time and circumstances, how one should act under these conditions. And Prabhupada often commented, and he used these terms very strongly. Like we know that in the Lilamrita, in the 6th volume, there's one chapter titled Chant Hare Krishna and Fight. Prabhupada's not giving us some sentimental instruction that you go out and you do something martial, some physical activity, but that you have to have this attitude, the same attitude that Arjuna should have had, to be vyavasayamika buddhir ekeha kurunandana. He has to be one-pointed in his focus. And everyone can relate to this. Many times we've heard that you have to be focused at the task at hand. You cannot be, otherwise nothing will get done. And the conclusion in that verse is that the intelligence of those is many-branched, splayed. Sometimes we use the term splayed out. He can't concentrate. He's unfocused, thinking of too many things, non-essential things. And so this is also a detrimental attitude for a devotee if he doesn't know what is his duty. It's like our duty is to chant Hare Krishna and preach. Preaching is the essence. We don't really have any other duty. Whatever we do should reflect that attitude, whether it's in our dress, whether it's in our presentation of the philosophy, whether it's in our interaction with the general population. We have a certain duty to uphold. And so just like Prabhupada relates here that Arjuna was bringing infamy not just to himself, but to his family. So that's why he gave that relationship, that he's the cousin of Arjuna. He's a blood relative. What do they call in India? Cousin brother. You know, so this is a very close relationship. And so his infamy would spread throughout the entire family. So it's not just him alone. He can say, well, it's just me. No. This is a mark of infamy against the whole family. And so this should also not be done. One should not be selfish in his attitude. He should understand, just like we're in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, a very big family. But if one person misbehaves, then the whole reputation of the society becomes compromised, can be spoiled. And we've seen this. So it's not hypothetical. So we have a very great responsibility to uphold the reputation of our spiritual master. And this is not, I mean, every company places great stock in their reputational credit. They go to such lengths to try to maintain it, that some small spot, just like it's described that a spot on a white cloth, a black spot, is very noticeable. So this is compared to the any devotee misbehaving. It becomes a black spot, not just on him, but on the entire society. So we have to be very conscientious in this regard. We're not, and at the same time, we don't take into consideration the superficial criticism. Sometimes people say, oh, you people, you chant too much. One time on the subway, we chant, we have Sankirtan parties that go out in the winter time, they go into the New York subway, the underground. So it's massive network, hundreds of miles of tunnels and stations in each station. So we frequent certain stations where there's greater traffic, people traffic, like Times Square, Union Square, many of these important cities that, you know, streets that you may or may not know. If you've been to New York, you would know them. So there's one time one gentleman came up and we chant. I mean, we do what we're supposed to do. Jor se bolo. We're chanting loudly. And the subway has a very nice acoustic, actually, because it's underground. One man came up waving his arm frantically and saying, too loud, too loud, too loud. And he just kept going off like this. And of course, we don't mind that it, you know, we're sorry that he thinks it's too loud. But the devotees are so compassionate that one of the kirtaniyas, one of the ladies who were there distributing books, we always bring out garlands from the deities and some mahaprasadam. She went up to him and she garlanded him with this flower. And as soon as she garlanded him, he immediately stopped his complaints. He didn't know what to do. He was totally disarmed by the compassion of the devotees. And then, instead of complaining anymore, he started to listen very carefully. That the volume had not changed. Nothing had changed. It was the same level of volume. But he had changed. Right? In touch with the Tadhiyanam, with the paraphernalia of the Supreme Lord, he became instantly transformed. And he sat there for some time, more than 45 minutes, just listening. And then he took prasadam and he took a book. So these things are happening regularly in the Sankirtan movement. So we have an opportunity to challenge the Maya. Sometimes we see that Prabhupada describes that in the material world, everyone is ghostly haunted. And you see this, especially in New York. People are walking around, they talk to themselves all the time. You understand that they're ghostly haunted. They're talking all nonsense. They're not making any sense. They're not in the present tense, so to speak. They're in some alternate reality of their own making or some drug-induced state of consciousness. But even these people are getting the benefit of the holy name. The whole area is being purified. So the police never complain about us. They never obstruct us from chanting the holy name. Even though there may be some complaints, they say, no, leave these people alone. And we go from station to station. And we chant without any interruption. And the devotees are doing it for, on the weekdays, from 6 to 8 hours. On the weekends, from 10 to 12 hours continuously in this effort. And of course, this is as it should be. Harinam Sankirtan Prabhupada started this movement simply by chanting under the tree in Tompkins Square Park. Everyone knows the story. And that's there. So we have a legacy to uphold. And so we can, just like Kṛṣṇa is chastising Arjuna, later he even gets a little heavier, kushmalam tvayy. He says, you are speaking learned words, but in reality you're a fool. So Kṛṣṇa doesn't want any excuses. So that is also up to us. Sometimes in our mind we've prepared some excuse why we should not attempt to do something which otherwise is authorized, but maybe out of weakness of heart, like Arjuna. Not to go to this place, not to chant, out of fear of whatever, some opposition. So you have to be bold. Chant Hare Krishna and fight means to be bold, to go out and into the areas where people are not everybody in New York, 8 million plus people, they don't all come to the temple. Thousands come to the temple, but not 8 million. So we have an obligation to go out. This is our duty. It is not just sentiment. And this is what every temple, that is their duty. Without Harinam, then there's simply no benefit. Prabhupada told us that lock the doors on the temple and go out and do Harinam Sankirtan. So as to go outside. You just leave one pujari, and if not possible, then you just lock the doors and everybody goes outside. So this is how strong, how much emphasis Prabhupada put on Harinam Sankirtan. So here Sankirtan is going on all the time, everywhere, 24 hours a day here since forever. But it's especially famous from the time that Indra Prabhu came in 1985. But before that it was also going on. So there's a Khanda Kirtan. But and in Vrindavan, it's not like New York, which is covered with the modes of material nature. This is Krishna's place. So we don't have such a need. And anyone who's interested, they're already coming to the temple. But in the Western world, it's an absolute necessity that Harinam Sankirtan must go on. We give out thousands of invitation cards. This is just like in a battlefield where the warriors, they're slinging arrows, right? They're doing whatever they can. They're wielding their swords. So on the Sankirtan, we're also giving out thousands of mantra cards. Each mantra card has the potency to convert that person who takes that card into a devotee. How much potency is there? So many of us. I can remember when I received the mantra card from a devotee distributing on the street. Such an event, when you think about it, it's seminal. This is the turning point. I didn't know it at the time. But when you look back on it, you see, yes, this is the point at which somehow or other I had the opportunity, and I took that mantra card. And what did it say on the back of that mantra card? Does anybody remember what the old mantra card used to say? To chant these names of God and your life will be sublime. I wasn't sure what sublime meant. I had an idea. But I thought, what harm is there to chant these names? So I chanted, just thinking, okay, why not? So just by that chanting, without any other introduction to the philosophy, well, we had prasadam. In New York, they used to famously distribute what they call luglus, not like this Balaji luglu, this big bundi ladu. They used to use bundi, chickpea, but also mixed with dates, figs, honey, all types of nice nuts and amaranth. And we used to cook it and roll it into sheets and then cut it into bars and then package it. And people would go, wherever they saw a devotee, they would go and they would ask for this. It was the first health food bar. It had cashews, almonds. It was an amazing treat. And everybody in New York loved it. Everybody. And they would seek out the devotees just to get that prasadam. They didn't care about the books. We would also, if someone gave a donation for the luglu, we would give it back to God. But they wanted the prasadam. And prasadam was the secret weapon. And the devotees who cooked this were famous. We had, just like we're seeing some of these paintings by Pṛthā and the famous Bhagavad Gita, the original Bhagavad Gita was Bharadwaj Prabhu. So these were the devotees when I joined the temple, and they're making these special treats. And literally we would distribute thousands in a day. It was incredible how much prasadam was going out into the streets of New York. And now we're not distributing thousands, but we're distributing thousands of the mantra cards. And anyone who's sincere, we give them one of our homemade cookies, of which we have hundreds, but not thousands. So this preaching has so many different facets, and everyone can participate. And whether you're the front line of the infantry, and you're out on Harinam Sankirtan, and you're chanting and distributing these mantra cards, or you're back in the temple when someone comes in and says, I received this card out in the street. I'd like to know more. And then we show them, yes, we have this program. We have Bhagavad Gita class. We have Srimad Bhagavatam class. We have the Sunday feast. So this preaching is the essence, right? Books are the basis. Preaching is the essence. Everything has to be there. And we see the potency of Bhagavad Gita, that someone who comes, even who is just slightly influenced by the kirtan, just like we give the mantra card and someone is chanting, then they willingly take the Bhagavad Gita and their life is changed. And we see that now all young people are again coming to join the temple. So this is something that we want to see, next generation. Everything has to go on. Satatam kirtiyam tomam yatantas chajud. So we're chanting, but we need more people to chant. So every day devotees are going and we need more and more. And so where do they come from? We don't import them from other temples or from India. You make devotees. They're already there. Prabhupada in the Satru Maharaj and the Lilamrita, the book is there. It's called Planting the Seed. Planting the seed. So after you plant the seed, you have to make sure that the cultivation continues. It's not just that you plant the seed, then you don't water, you don't pull out the weeds. No, it has to be, the process is complete. And that is why Prabhupada said, that is why we have temples. He said the only reason we have temples is to make devotees. Only reason. Not just for our self-satisfaction, our comfortable place to lie down on the floor or things like that. No. Not required. He said only to make devotees. So we have, and so there's this process. As long as you are following it, automatically the results are there. There's no need to adulterate the original mission. The seeds have been planted. For years the devotees have been chanting continuously on the streets. Continuously. And so people are coming. And so when they come, you have to acknowledge that they're who they are, that what they're seeking, and encourage them. They don't have to join the temple, in the beginning, but we introduced them to the process, how to chant, how to offer your food, how to understand why we do what we do. People want to know, why do you shave your head? You know, why are there different colored dresses? You know, so we explained to them, yes, there's a very complete system for advancing in spiritual life. That through the 4 ashrams, anyone can be comfortable in his gradual elevation in Krishna consciousness. There's no, how can you say, false impetus. We're not trying to push people into something that you have to do this, you have to do that. No, they accept it. When they come, these young people, we tell them there's no meat eating. For them, that's nothing. Many of them are vegetarians or vegans. No, that's fine, that's nothing. And then you say, no illicit sex. Yeah, many are okay with that as well. They have the same. No gambling, they don't really understand. But we try to relate to them that this means dishonesty. Because gambling relates to cheating, lying, things like that. And no intoxication. That's a little difficult. Still in this material world, people are attached to their intoxication. Because the material world is so disturbing, and one is looking for some relief. So we tell them, we had a pamphlet many years ago we used to distribute, and Prabhupada gave everyone the idea. Everything was coming from Prabhupada. And what was the name of that pamphlet? It said, "Stay high forever." So we used to distribute that because that was the prevailing mentality. Everybody wanted to get some higher stage of consciousness, but they didn't know. Stay high, but the way Prabhupada put it, stay high forever. Anyone could relate to it. Otherwise, for intoxication, you have to drink something and then drink some more, smoke something, smoke some more. Whatever it is, it doesn't last forever. But this, when you learn to tap into the reservoir of pleasure, which was the other small book we used to distribute, then people could understand, yes, what is the source of happiness? So that, and everyone realizes that, yes, happiness is available, but it's temporary. We want permanent happiness. And that can only be found by coming to understand who we are, and that we are not these bodies, and that this happiness is not coming from these external material senses, but coming from our internal connection. So this is very important, where it's not difficult to understand. These young people are coming up regularly and asking. We have a program called Be a Monk. Very interesting. They started in London and other places. And we had similar years ago by different names, but similar. You come and you stay in the temple for a weekend. You try it out. It's a little, we explain to them, yes, we get up at 3:30 in the morning. We have to take baths. We go to a morning program. We meditate. We have class on Srimad Bhagavatam. And many of them are very enthusiastic to try it because it's so different. So different. That this is the ancient method to self-realization. And they want to know, what is this? How are you doing this? Also, young people, they relate to, because, I'm old in the temple, but most of the people in the temple are under 30. And many are much younger than that. People are joining, they're 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, like it was previously. Because there's so much dissatisfaction. Everyone can see that there's no real happiness. At any moment, your freedom can be curtailed by some means or another. So this is a very good time for preaching. Very good time for giving the message of Godhead. Many people are looking for this. And so we have to be bold. We have to distribute without fear. We have to depend on Kṛṣṇa. Kṛṣṇa is telling everybody, he's telling us specifically, that that there's no loss or diminution, and a little advancement saves one from the greatest fear. Just a little advancement. And they're appreciating that. They're reading Nectar of Devotion. And they're listening and they're saying that, how pure devotional service frees one from all material distress. And they're experiencing it. And when they experience this, their faith is crystallized. They see, yes, this process works. I am no longer suffering from the anxiety that I previously had. This is the test. What is that verse in 9th chapter? Raja Vidya Raja Goyam Pavicha Midamuttamam. Says, this knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting and joyfully performed. And so they are able to identify. And this is, and we have, of course, we have advanced devotees who are teaching, who are coming and passing through. And this is the process that devotees should travel, especially the sannyasis and those who are aspiring for that. And so it is never boring. All the classes are very filled with the opportunity for realization. One just has to listen carefully and with sincerity. Shrinvata swakata Kṛṣṇa punya shravana kirtana. That punya shravana must be there. Has to be with sincerity. Hṛdaya daurbalyaṁ vidunoti surit satam. Automatically there will become a fixed within the heart. Right? Not just that you are hearing, but like it said in the 9th chapter, that practical realization. How I am becoming free. How I have lost my taste for this material world. How I am no longer interested in chasing these things like intoxication, illicit sex, gambling. So when they see these things, they realize that yes, this process works. And they build on it, and they can progress in such a way that stage by stage they're rising. It's gradual, they see it, they experience it, they see it in others. And of course, we have the best example, the founder Acharya, who's our example in every respect. And everyone, even if they've never met Srila Prabhupada, they can feel his presence in these books and in his words when they listen to his lectures. He reasons ill who tells that Vaishnavas die when thou art living still and sound. A Vaishnav dies to live, and living spreads the holy name around. So this is this Thakur Bhaktivinoda is giving us the essence, of association with a pure devotee. Vani and Vapu. Here in Vrindavan, we're very fortunate, right? Because we have both. Here we have the presence of the founder Acharya here on the premises. Anyone can go to Srila Prabhupada's Samadhi and take his blessings and pray to him. In person. Someone is thinking, oh, who can hear, how can... No, the spiritual master is not. He's tri-kalagya, means he knows past, present, and future. One is thinking, remember, he reasons ill who tells that Vaishnavas die. Spiritual master is always present in one form or another, internally or externally. When Prabhupada was leaving the planet here in his room, he said, I am not leaving you, I am going into your heart. And so if someone wants to take Prabhupada into his heart, he can do so now. Not sentimentally, not thinking that, oh, now I've taken diksha. This is the false premise. Cannot be done. We are param-tapa servants, so therefore we have to serve the param-tapa according to the instructions in the Shruti Smriti Puranadi Pancharatra Vidimbana. According to the Shruti and Smriti, not according to my mental concoction. Otherwise, upapadyate kalpate, it's a disturbance. So one should follow Srila Prabhupada very carefully to the best of his ability, to the extent that he feels that he can at a particular time. If he does that, he will get the enthusiasm to go further. But this is how we begin. Prabhupada will give, and Kṛṣṇa will give internally. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me comes knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. So he is within the heart. It's not external that I'm reading this book and therefore the knowledge is coming. No, This is simply the pure Srinvata Swakata Kṛṣṇa. This is the purification process by which I apply myself, and Kṛṣṇa sees that. And therefore he reveals it. He reveals the knowledge. It's not the words on the page. He reveals this internally. And so those who are practicing, they experience this, and then they realize that, yes, my connection to Kṛṣṇa is through my actions, just like Kṛṣṇa is telling Arjuna. You have to fight. You have to follow this order. So that order from the spiritual master, from Kṛṣṇa to Arjuna, is tadvidi pranipatena pariprasnena sevaya upadekshanti te gyanam gyaninas tattvadarshana. You just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master, inquire submissively, and render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. He is the tattvadarshi. He has seen the truth. So this is not something we don't have. We have no speculation, no addition, no subtraction. It's just whatever Prabhupada gave us, very clearly, very simply, very directly. And we can take this, as they say, to the bank. This will always have the value. It will never become less. And the only way it can become less is if we decide to minimize it through an illusion by Maya. So this, we have to be a little careful in that regard. That Kṛṣṇa is giving that this divine energy of mine is very difficult to overcome. But one who is surrendered unto me, he can easily cross beyond it. So how is that? He can easily cross beyond it. So Kṛṣṇa wants this, at least in here we're reading, you must surrender. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave us the additional secret. Just satatam kirtayanto mamyatantascha dridhavrata. Just always chant. Always chant. Endeavoring with great determination and bowing down before me. It's the same process. Without any need for complications and trying to become artificially a Brahmin, the samo damo tapasocham. No, because Kṛṣṇa is saying that that person is who's understood these things, he's offering everything as a sacrifice to Kṛṣṇa. Yat kuroshi, yat snasi, yat jahoshi dadasi, yat tapasyasi kontaya. He's giving everything automatically. Whatever he does, whatever he eats, whatever he offers and gives away, everything he's doing for Kṛṣṇa. He's not doing anything for himself. Even it may seem like he's doing something for himself, he's doing it as a servant of Kṛṣṇa. Just like the soldier in the army, in the battlefield. Everything is being given to him to execute his duties. Right? So there's nothing, he doesn't have to look around and say, what type of weapon should I use or what type of ammunition? No, everything is given to him. He simply has to follow the orders. That's his surrender. He has to follow the orders. You go here, you do this. So this is our simple process as well. Just chant Hare Krishna. Take prasadam, dance. Prabhupada said, even if you don't want to dance, dance, and the ecstasy will come. Such a simple thing. And when you do this, you get the realization. Because this dancing is not a material thing. It's not something that we do to try to impress someone else or to impress. It's being simply done to please Kṛṣṇa. And therefore automatically Kṛṣṇa reciprocates. He doesn't have to. He's not forced to. But by your desire, utsaha nishtaya daya tattakamava, by your enthusiasm, you're showing Kṛṣṇa, yes, I want to do this for you. Because he wants to do this simply out of humility or out of surrender, and Kṛṣṇa is, yes, you can. This ecstasy is freely available. Anyone who has been in these big festivals, when the mood is there and the kirtan has reached a certain point, everyone gets up and dances. Nobody has to say, hey, you, get up and dance. The dancing is spontaneous. Because Kṛṣṇa he is present wherever his name is. And so when that kirtan is there and the devotees are performing out of their love for Kṛṣṇa, that is obvious. It is, you can feel it. You can feel it. That's why sometimes if you go to some professional kirtan, there's no ecstasy. There's nothing. It's just it's a performance. People are paying or whatever. It's not real. Sometimes there may be some artificial, they'll do something like this, but you can tell it is not sustainable. So that is the other verse. What is that? Anyway, it has no substance. Therefore, it cannot be considered to be permanent, eternal, like that. So we have to taste the process. Prabhupada used the analogy of the bottle of honey. You cannot taste the honey, experience the honey, simply by looking at the bottle. You have to open the jar and you have to taste it. So this is a very simple analogy, but it's a fact. You have to participate. If you're standing on the sidelines and wondering, why are these people so happy? How is it that they're dancing? What? You have to join and try it. There's no loss, there's no diminution. A little advancement will save you from the greatest fear. So that is, and Prabhupada said, actually, the very nice what Prabhupada said, that on the lecture in London, so he gave that purport. Funny how he said that. Of course, the purport is, we have the whole purport, but then at the very end of the lecture, he says, this is the purport. And what is that purport? Now my page has to refresh because it's online. So we'll see if it does so. But that Kṛṣṇa, the purport is that Arjuna has to surrender. Even in the very beginning, Kṛṣṇa is trying to give him the quick, because this is chapter 2 is a summary study of Bhagavad Gita, so it's the quick and dirty essence. And so he's giving Arjuna many hints, he could, instead of going through all 18 chapters, the 45 minutes before the battle, Arjuna could have said, yeah, okay, let me just get rid of this weakness of heart and I'll just fight, no problem. Quick, done. After only a few verses. After only a few minutes into the conversation. But no, for our benefit, the conversation went on and Arjuna had to expose all these various doubts he had so that we could relate to them. And obviously, anyone who's reading Bhagavad Gita can relate to them. So, and maybe after the second chapter you're fully convinced. We can't say for sure. I remember thinking when I was reading this Bhagavad Gita the very first time, I said, how is it that this knowledge, which appears to be available easily, that I've been searching for my entire life, and how is it being presented so clearly and from an unexpected direction? Right? We are thinking that Bhagavad Gita, which we studied in college, was just some prose and poetry. Like the Iliad or the Odyssey. Bullfinch's mythology. And here we see that this is something which was latent within our hearts, this knowledge, and was put before us and said, no, here it is. You've been looking for this, and now here it is. You're not this body. What a revelation. After searching, I am not this body. I always knew this innately, but how could it be expressed? How do we understand it? We tried so many things, every type of intoxication. And then, finally, to get this without, just right in front of us, without having to do anything external or internal, that the truth was revealed. So we're praying that everyone gets this opportunity, and that's why the Bhagavad Gita is distributed. It's not just because Prabhupada wrote this book and we feel obligated because no. We understand the potency of the Bhagavad Gita, and therefore we're enlivened to give it to everyone and pray for the transformation that we know can be there if this person reads it with an open mind. So if there's any questions or comments, or thank you everyone for listening. Yes, Prabhu.
Last week, Janardana gave a very nice talk in which he emphasized in chapter 1 in Prabhupada's purports the word soft-hearted.
Yeah.
And now in verse 3 of chapter 2, we have Krishna saying, no, this is weak-hearted. Now, the difference to me is the emphasis that in the first he's talking about a devotee is soft-hearted. And now we're going on to the more practical aspect of being a kṣatriya. Is that coming down?
Well, in the later chapters we'll appreciate that it's not coming down, but it's part of the evolution. And naturally, a devotee is soft-hearted, and he's compassionate. Titiksha karunaka. This is described as the 26 qualities of a devotee. The first two, tolerance and compassion. But in this case, we see that there's ultimately Arjuna has to get to that point where even in the most extreme circumstances, which we're fortunate we don't have to necessarily experience, but if it were to be so, we've heard stories of, quote, martyrs. People have given everything up for their faith, up to their lives, right? So this is something which we don't have, we've given our life in advance to serving the spiritual master. We don't have to artificially sacrifice his body. As a matter of fact, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stopped Sanatana Goswami from committing suicide under the wheel of the Rath cart. He was feeling morose that he was not able to properly execute his duties because of his condition. His body was filled with separating sores. No one can imagine this distress, filled with boils and this way, and you couldn't approach anyone, like being an outcast. He said, better for me to just give up this body, it's useless. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stopped him from committing suicide and says, this is not your body, this is my body. You have surrendered to me, now it is mine. So why are you thinking like this, that you should deny me the opportunity to use your body for preaching? And of course we know Sanatana Goswami is one of the greatest preachers, the 6 Goswamis. And he went on to give us so much on the most highly elevated dissertations. And so this was a situation where, and on the other hand, Prabhupada condemned persons who showed the weakness of heart to associate, if they were in the ashram of sannyas, to associate with those in the opposite sex. He's very strict. So how was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, how do we understand that? Why he was so simultaneously giving Sanatana Goswami that, this is, you cannot take away this, I am using your body, but on the other hand, he condemned the sannyasi for this, what would seem to be a simple infraction. But because it would lead to the reputational harm of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's preaching, of the preaching of that time, he showed by his strength that, yes, you must do like this. You must commit suicide. So who can understand? One person he stops and another person he tells, no, you do this. But there was deliverance in both circumstances. Just like I heard when Prabhupada was giving a lecture, now there's, how many people died in the Battle of Kurukshetra? Everybody knows? According to the calculations here, 640 million people died in 18 days. 640 million people. And that was in itself something. And all the Kshatriyas were burdening the earth. It was like when Parashuram came to cut down and we see it now, so many burdens by these governments, and especially in Kali Yuga. So this was another instance where Kṛṣṇa gathered them all together and eliminated them. But every person on that battlefield received Sayujya Mukti. Every single person. And some who were there received Sarupya Mukti. Those who directly saw Kṛṣṇa, they received a form similar to his in the Vaikuntha Lok. But everybody received liberation. So there was no, and that's why he said, never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall we ever cease to be. Yeah. And he further goes on, why are you lamenting? You know, this body is nothing. The soul is everything. So why are you lamenting for the loss of the body? Whether it's your grandfather or your brother or whoever. Everyone is destined to die. And technically, they're already, in this case, they're destined to die. So for you to do your duty, what's that? Nimitta matram bhava savyasachin. So Kṛṣṇa instructed Arjuna, just become an instrument. An instrument is something which is used for a particular purpose. You cannot use a screwdriver in place of a hammer. Sometimes people try. You've seen someone who's not familiar with the tool. They'll take the screwdriver and they'll bang the handle on something. But it's not a hammer. Right? And some people will use a hammer for the wrong purpose. Or some other tool. So one has to know. So Kṛṣṇa told Arjuna, just become an instrument. And so at that point, the instrument was to help to get rid of this burden on the earth, these Kshatriyas who were giving such trouble. So that was there. So we should all just become instruments as much as possible. You know, does it require that surrender is there? Whatever we have, yukta vairagya uchite, whatever we have that we can give to Kṛṣṇa and engage in his service, then that should be done. Prabhupada used the term dovetailing. Dovetailing is for carpentry, for wood joinery. When you use a dovetail, it is perfectly placing two pieces of wood together with no gap. It's done in such a way without screws or nails. It's dovetailing. Perfect connection. So we perfectly connect to Kṛṣṇa when we use our talents for Kṛṣṇa. So it's a very simple thing. And Arjuna was a Kshatriya. Therefore, he had to act like a Kshatriya. That was his dovetailing. Any other questions or concerns? Well, thank you very much. You've been a very, very patient audience. I very much appreciate. I hope to have the opportunity again to address you next time I'm in Vrindavan. Or if by chance you're in New York, please come to our temple in New York. We have a very nice situation and everyone's welcome. And we have very nice Harinam party and lots of devotees, new devotees who come and stay. We have brahmacharya ashram, brahmacharini ashram. So everything is very nicely prepared just to give everyone an opportunity to surrender easily and progressively.
Is that the Bhakti Center?
Huh? This is not the Bhakti Center. This is the original temple in New York.
Oh, okay.
We have a big temple. That's in Brooklyn, 305 Schermerhorn Street. Yeah, Brooklyn. We were in Brooklyn, and there's been several temples. First temple, everyone knows, 20th 2nd Avenue. Second temple, but only for 1 year, was 61 2nd Avenue. And then third temple was what we call Henry Street, first Brooklyn temple. And that was there from 1969 till 1975. And then we were in Manhattan for 5 years, 1975 to 1980. And then we're back in Brooklyn since that time. So we're still there. Very nice temple, very big temple. So everyone's welcome. And we have hṛdaya-daurbalyaṁ coming June 8th, the biggest hṛdaya-daurbalyaṁ, down 5th Avenue. Most important street in the most important city, Srila Prabhupada said. Everyone's welcome. 25,000 people come and pull these 3 carts down for 2 miles along the 5th Avenue. Very wonderful festival. And then everyone takes prasadam, and everyone has a grand time. So please come, June 8th.